Hi, this is David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock market. It's Friday, and I'm doing the show by myself today. And so today I decided we're going to talk a little bit about e-bikes. So this is something that is a big part of the electric vehicle space. Normally we talk about cars, and I thought it'd be kind of a nice change to talk about something a little bit different. I'm going to start off by talking about kind of an exciting entry into the e-bike world. And this is an entry in the UK, but it's the Ducati Futa e-bike. Now, what's kind of interesting is FUTA in the United States means federal unemployment tax, but in this case, it's a really quite nice looking bike we see here in the image. Let's see here. I think that looks pretty sharp. It looks like a really nice road bike or mountain bike there, and all the electric pieces are hidden in the frame. Let's see what we get here. Back out here a little bit. Ducati just started selling e-bikes, and this one is approximately 7,500 pounds. That's going to be over $8,000 in the United States. All e-bikes are pretty expensive. There's also a limited edition that's 12,000 pounds. Let's see. Unlike electric mountain bikes, the Futa looks very similar to a conventional road bike. Battery pack hidden in the frame. You can blast past other Lycra clad riders like Mark Cavendish, late for work. Weighs a modest 12.5 kilograms, which is about 30 pounds, or no, about 27.5 pounds. Developed by an Italian firm called Thok. It's pretty agile, more of a relaxed ride rather than an out-and-out racers. The tires are quite chunky. It's quite comfortable, suitably squidgy seat atop that carbon frame. It has about a 50-mile range, depending on how heavily the rider relies on the battery. Legal restrictions say the battery will only assist the riders up to speeds of around 16 miles per hour. After that, it's back to the pedals. This is also this is Ducati's first road bike. Done a pretty good job. I thought that was pretty cool. Now, one of the things that is consideration, and you see a lot of these different looking bikes, and they get confused because a lot of the e-bikes or electric scooters, motorcycles, they look like motorcycles, but in reality, they are lower speed vehicles. So because of this, I wanted to bring up this article on what the difference is between electric bicycles and electric motorcycles, because this is a rather gray area. And you'll see kids riding e-bikes that resemble motorcycles. Some of them will wear helmets, some of them won't, and it's quite a bit different. Now, this is more in relationship to California. And an e-bike, the motor in e-bike must be less than 750 watts or 3/4 of a kilowatt. This may sound familiar. Um, Anyways, there's a max speed of 30 miles per hour on level ground. Above that, it's then considered to be a motorcycle, needs a motorcycle license, which is kind of interesting. A lot of your electric motorcycle looking devices that are all battery powered are essentially, they max out at 30 so that they can get away from some of these rules, which I thought that might be something that'd be kind of interesting for today's audience. Let's see what we've got here. I've got another article here on an event that's taking place called Shift 23. Shift 23 is a cycling and mobility conference going on in Bentonville, Arkansas later on in October. And it's interesting because e-bikes are front and center on this. There's some congressmen introducing a Bicycle Commuter Act and co-sponsored the e-bike act. It's Congressman Blumenauer. Let's see what we get here. The congressional co-chair of the Congressional Bike Caucus. Let's see. Commissioner Mary Boyle of the Consumer Product Safety Commission will keynote the conference with an interview sharing her perspective on the future of federal e-bike regulations, including priorities for lithium-ion batteries, bike regulations, product certification, rider safety, and more. E-bikes are a convenient mode of transportation. It's crucial that riders in our industry prioritize safety to prevent dangerous incidents. An interesting conference. Mountain biking has experienced a meteoric rise in popularity over the last decade, and thanks in large part to improved bike tech and growing interest with the sport, but also the emergence of the power assisted or pedal assisted power from the e-bikes is bringing a lot more people into that space. This particular conference is $795. For that price, you'd think they'd also give away a free bike. Let's see. And my last topic I'm going to cover today, this kind of a short show today, it has to do with people in the United States, whether they want to ride a bicycle to work. And it's kind of a different situation here in the United States. In Denmark, something like 60% of people ride a bicycle to work. And it's great exercise. I love riding a bike. But in a lot of places in the United States, it just isn't terribly safe. You're sharing the road with cars that are going much faster. We typically have 4-lane roads, 2-lane roads. We have a lot of vehicles. I've personally been hit twice while riding bicycles by vehicles, and it can be a pretty bad experience. I've carried some lifelong injuries since I was a teenager from being hit by a drunk driver while riding a bicycle. So it's not always just a pleasant memory. So, the idea of riding a bike to work doesn't always come across well. Obviously, if people rode e-bikes to work, it would save tremendously on, people's personal carbon footprint, on the cost of operating the vehicles, obviously very cheap. There's a lot of things that could be beneficial, but one of your problems you get into is just how safe people feel. Also, I live in the north where it can be very cold. Of course, Denmark is quite cold as well. But it's anyways, in the United States, we've lost 75,000 people riding to work compared with before COVID, before pre-pandemic. And one of the questions when you look at the state of our roads, is there any wonder people give up on their cycle to work? Now, the person who wrote this particular article is from the UK, and it's kind of comparing writing there to writing in the United States. I'm in a fortunate position to be able to avoid sharing the road too much, but still, it's rarely an enjoyable journey. At intersections, I have to watch out for cars turning across the bike lane. At police stations, I have to dodge squad cars blocking the bike lane, pavement, and roadway. Heaven forbid there's road work. I can kiss my inner tubes goodbye if that's the case. These kinds of hazards, combined with a near endless stream of news reports about New York cyclists being knocked off their bikes, is enough to put any sane person off spending any time biking around Manhattan. And here's a picture. In this particular case, these folks, I believe this is Denmark, and that's rush hour in a European city where bikes make up the majority. In the US, less than 1% of commuters cycle to work regularly, and while across in Canada, it's closer to 3%. In Australia, it's also 3%. So it is tough to fathom ever reaching the kind of numbers that you would see in a country like Denmark. First we need to dramatically improve our bike lanes. Now, where I live in Nebraska, they put in some bike lanes and they lasted about a year before they were repurposed back into an additional car lane because people just didn't automatically start riding their bikes, do it. And then here's a good example where somebody's parking a FedEx truck to make deliveries and they're blocking the bike lane. The bikes have no way to pass that truck. So that's kind of a bit of a problem. And that's pretty typical here in the United States. Here's an example of a parking spot specifically for e-bikes. This little container will hold 6 e-bikes. One of the concerns is if people are storing their e-bikes in an apartment that maybe they'd catch fires. And so it's interesting just kind of to see what we see, as the future of bicycling and mobility here in the US. It's obviously much more popular in some other countries. And I'd love to see more of it. And one of the things is just people being willing to share the ride. There's some other things I've seen out there in terms of mobility for or cycling, or something similar. As an example, one of the companies that's here in the United States and makes EVs is this company Arcimoto. And Arcimoto makes what they call the FUV. They're on the NASDAQ. That's actually their symbol is FUV for Fun Utility Vehicle. And these are kind of cool. It's two wheels up front, one in the back, and it's very efficient electric vehicle starting at $20,000. So it's not expensive, and there's a lot of possibilities for, a device like this. They don't take up a lot of space. They at most take up probably half of a parking space, and, just a different kind of experience as far as electric vehicles. Anyways, just wanted to have a little rant today about the EV space and how e-bikes fill their spot in that. Until next week.